It's great to see Rolf de Heer's latest film that he wrote and directed, Survival of Kindness, is releasing in cinemas in Australia on the 4th of May. And it's my great pleasure to be speaking to Rolf de Heer, as well as the lead actress of Survival of Kindness, Mwajemi Hussein. Welcome to Movie Metropolis.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Great to talk to you both. And first of all, Rolf, I am quite intrigued by this film. It is, in fact, it works so much as a parable because it was shot during COVID times, but it also deals with the treatment of First Nations people. There's so many issues that the film deals with. How did you come about writing and directing this film?
It started off really without a subject, without me knowing what I wanted to do, and there was a sort of a complicated need for me to make a film, and to try and make a film in a different way, and there was a need for the film to be COVID nimble. And now being COVID nimble means certain things that, for example, a small crew is much more COVID nimble than a large crew because and small cast is the same. And if you're shooting remote locations, that's even better. And if you're shooting all exteriors, that's even better still. And so with those thoughts in my head, I ultimately came to my head was an image of a black person in a cage on a trailer and left in the desert. And then it began. And it was the time of the collision between the pandemic and Black Lives Matter. And those thoughts, of course, permeate, on a daily basis. There were important times, it was big. And of course that starts to creep in there, and then you think, well, that's a good thing, let it be so. So that's really how it went.
What an incredible background, and filming it without dialogue, I found also quite intriguing.
That was simply something that evolved during the writing of the script. It was not a conscious intent to begin with, and of course, if the way the film is, it's a little while before you get even two people who can talk to each other properly, and when I tried to write that scene, it worked better if if they weren't able to, and even then it was still not yet an intent of mine to make it all like that. And then the further you got into it, the harder it became not to keep it going like that, because then it required a scene, and in the end I was quite liberated by the fact that this is how it began to define the world that the film inhabits.
It certainly does that. So, Mwajemi, I am quite intrigued. How did you find out about this film, and how did you get cast in it? I'm because it's such a terrific performance.
Yes. For me, it's I always say it's a miracle. Was a miracle, and still a miracle is going on and happening. So far, I knew about this film from a community group member. She heard from, I don't know, somehow they were looking for a Black woman to be in a new movie of Rolf de Heer. Even if she said about Rolf de Heer, I didn't know about him. And also I didn't know about any acting procedure or something, because I never acted before. She encouraged me to apply because she said my age and the requirements, I fit everything. And I said, I don't think I can act because I never acted before. And I don't think really what they can take me. And she pushed and encouraged to apply, which I did after many hesitations. And after I applied, then I start feeling like, oh, I should follow up. And I was curious because I always feel I want to challenge myself, and I'm very curious in many things. So I went to see the casting director. Found me, and she spoke to me. We met somewhere at a park, and she was really interested. She said she will pass it to Rolf, who is the main person who he knows who is looking for. So they invited me to meet Rolf, and I went to see Rolf. And before I went to see Rolf, I have friends. I met one of my friends, and I said, I have a job, an interview. So they were surprised. Why are you looking for interview and you work full time? I said, no, this time is a filming. I want to act. Wow. Whoa, and who is this? And I said, Rolf de Heer. They said, wow, Rolf de Heer. And I start feeling, oh, this man is well known. I said, we know Rolf de Heer. I would be excited if you will get this role. Okay. So I went to the interview, and I met Rolf, and we start talking about life, about myself. And yeah, they asked me for the second interview, and I was surprised they took me.
I'm glad we did.
Exactly. Congratulations. What a process that you went through. That's and Rolf, you repaid that process by locking Mwajemi up in a cage for so long. How could you?
Well, yeah, the script, I mentioned you, it was coming.
Yeah.
No, it was a good process. It's the stuff we started with was shooting on the clay pan, and you can see how quickly Mwajemi took to filming, how good she is, and it was immediate from the beginning. It was fantastic.
Definitely. So, Mwajemi, you are really put through a lot of difficult scenes and circumstances, especially in your search for shoes. How did you feel about this whole acting process for you?
Walking barefoot, walking without shoes, it's very, very easy for me because it was not the first time. My life, I can say most of my life experience was walking barefoot. So, and a long distance, even after I started having children, I remember going very far looking for water to drink, because the water to drink, we were looking it from 2 hours or 3 hours walk. So, and it's easy. Yeah, it's not very easy, but I'm used to that. So walking barefoot was not a big problem with me. And the way I was looking for shoes, the Black woman was looking for shoes, because you always never know. Even if people walk barefoot, it does not mean they want to, because they don't have or other options. They cannot afford shoes. Then they have to walk without shoes. So in that case, when a Black woman was seeing any shoes available, opportunity, why not having it? Because you always never know how the long distance will reach, because she never knew where to end and how it will happen in her future journey. So that's how she took shoes or whatever opportunity, because I have shoes, why not having them?
Okay. Wow. What an experience. Rolf, this is such an incredible parable in many respects. I mean, there's gas masks that people wear. There's something in the environment that's affecting people. There's so much going on insofar as the underlying oppression and violence that you reveal in the film. Was all of that very carefully plotted, or did you find that you were introducing elements as you were filming?
No, the script was pretty specific about just about everything. The biggest shift in anything like that was the sequence in what we shot in the zinc factory in the big industrial complex. That was a location that I'd seen early on in the piece, and it just felt too extraordinary to fit in the film. It just felt too big, I thought it would unbalance the film. And we shot everything in South Australia first, and then we shot in Tasmania, and the zinc factory was in Tasmania. But by the time we got to Tasmania, the first half of the film had been shot, and it looked so fantastic that the locations I had picked instead of the zinc factory felt pedestrian and ordinary, and it in fact needed something like the zinc factory for it to work, and that necessitated a little bit of rewriting because of the particularities of that location. But that's really all that shifted very much. Everything else that might have shifted would only be a tiny little bit here or there. So yes, it was in the script.
Okay, no, very interesting. Why the title?
I could say, why not the title? Well, the title came about through we had a title to begin with, which was The Mountain, which was what it became in the first few days of when I was simply looking at locations in the mountain without yet knowing what the film was going to be about. We needed to change it, and we did so just before the film was finished, because there were other mountain films that were coming out, and it was potentially too confusing. The composer and I had a very good relationship and worked very well in terms of the feel of what was coming, and she talked about, you know, the kindness in this scene or in that scene, and how it affected the way she was thinking. And I was very happy that's how she saw that, because I feel that, and you know, okay, here it was, she was coming up with it. Okay, great. And so when I was trying to think of a title to replace The Mountain, I went, you know, my mind went back to those conversations, and the notion of a survival of kindness from those conversations, and it felt to me to be a good title for the film.
Okay, no, it works really well. I'm always interested in how titles come about. So, okay, excellent. And you've mentioned music, so to speak. Anna Lipzeit has done a really interesting musical score to counterpoint what's happening on screen. I found that really quite fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, look, I was delighted. I mean, for me, it was a very interesting project to do, because apart from Julie Byrne, the co-producer, I hadn't worked really with anybody on that film before. It was also a very young crew, and a very sort of interestingly diverse crew, and balanced between men and women, and a number of young Indigenous heads of department, and there was all this interesting stuff going on. And I forgot the question to begin with.
The music score.
Yes, but I made there was a point I was making that I don't recall.
That's all right. No, it doesn't matter. And the cinematography, Max Corkindale, also looks quite stunning on screen.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Now, with the music, I had done every film I've ever done, apart from Dingo, which of course had Miles Davis and Michel Legrand, which is a whole different question. Every film I've ever done in from third year at film school on, I've had the same composer, Graham Tardif.
Right.
And in tune with the rest of things, you know, I thought, yes, I have to take a leap here and do this in this different way. And Graham, of course, said, yeah, great. So it was a new relationship with the composer, and it was a very good one, and I enjoyed it enormously. Now, Max and shooting the film, Max is terrific. I hadn't worked with him, but I had seen him work on somebody else's shoot a couple of times. I was producing a documentary that somebody else directed, and I was able to observe that what he did. And he seemed to me to be ideal for the nature of this venture, which is really what it was, in how practical he was and how well he understood the limitations of location and light and equipment, and then was able to make the most of things. And you know, it's an extraordinary job for me, and just delighted, you know, with Max. Yeah.
Terrific. It all looks and sounds so well. Mwajemi, I'm quite intrigued. How did you respond seeing yourself on screen as an actress and winning an award for Best Debut at the Belgrade Film Festival?
Yes, I saw myself on a big screen because I never attended or watched a movie in a big screen before. So for the first time, Rolf invited me to see how it looked like, because they were putting everything together. So I was very excited. So, wow, it's very big. And I loved everything, even if when everyone was, and including Rolf, were saying, oh, we have to correct this, or we have to do this. For me, everything was perfect. I didn't know what they are going to correct, but they knew what they were doing. So seeing myself in a big screen, and again, when we had Adelaide Film Festival last year in October, wow. So that was very good. And even my family, it was the first time also they saw it, and everyone was excited. And again, when we went to Berlin in Germany, it was a very big screen. And I was very excited. So, wow, this is so big. And the audience itself, more than 2,000 people. And yeah, it was so excited. And yeah, that's how it happened. And when I was called by Rolf about the award in Serbia, I was, wow, I couldn't believe in everything. I said, it's a miracle. I don't know what is going on. So I feel like, yes, because everyone and the award and the comment from people, I now understand I acted well. So the film is perfect. But people like it.
You did an excellent job, I must say. So well done on that. And you've mentioned Berlin, and I'm very familiar with the Berlinale and how such a major film festival that is. And I'd be interested in the German response, but also winning the FIPRESCI prize at the Berlinale, which is a fantastic award from the International Film Critics, which I'm a member of.
Yes. It was a very good one to get, I think.
Mm.
The response of the audience was very good.
Yeah.
Very good. It was like 2,000 people, but you could hear a pin drop.
Mm.
And it's a very quiet film in most of it, but it was absolutely engaged, rapt attention. It was fantastic.
Mm.
That is terrific. And you were there too, Mwajemi, I gather, and were part of that experience?
In Berlin?
In Berlin, yes.
Yeah, I was there, and I was there with my 2 children.
Ah.
Yeah, my children. So yeah, everyone was excited, and my family was so happy and grateful for everything happened because of this film. Yeah.
that is absolutely fantastic. But again, winning that FIPRESCI Award, which is very much a major prize. So the film is now releasing in Australia, which is great to see, and I know it already played elsewhere as well, and so on. So I mean, it's so important, a film like this, to be seen by audiences. I hope that that's what's going to happen.
Well, I hope so too, of course. Yes, but you know, the gods of cinema, they're quixotic, and we're in the lap of those gods at the moment.
Yes, because I mean, Rolf, you've made so many interesting, eclectic films. I'm always intrigued as to your decision-making process about what you decide to film.
I don't think it's a consistent one particular sort of decision-making process. I mean, each of them is, for me, each of them is so different, and they bear little relationship to each other. In my way of looking at it, it's not the way that everybody looks at it, but it's the way I look at it. Yeah.
And again, I suppose you'd be hoping, both of you'd be hoping, that people get the message or the messages that are in the film about oppression, about a whole range of issues, cultural issues, etc., that need to be addressed, especially now with the referendum coming up.
From my perspective, what I was looking to do was to make an engaging piece of cinema that perhaps would provoke some thinking and some discussion. You know, films shouldn't so try to send messages that are very specific and so on. And you know, but I think that just to push the conversation on a bit is about as much as you can hope for, and to make people think, but really to give people a cinematic experience, to engage them, because otherwise you're not doing your job, I don't think.
Well, you certainly have done that. I must ask you, Mwajemi, are you now working on another film?
Not yet, but I'm happy, and I'm looking for, if any opportunity happen, I'll continue taking risk and doing. At this time, I don't think it will be a risk, because I have confidence, and I'm happy to continue in acting, and as well as continue with my social work.
Okay, well, hopefully another role will come up, because you certainly deserve to be in more films. And Rolf, what about you? What are you working on now?
I'm working on the survival of kindness, as we call it, and that will go on for quite some time. I don't think I'll get much change out of this year. There's a lot happening overseas. There's a release in France. There'll be weeks of work there, and you know, I'll get a little bit of time at home, but it'll be taken up by arrangements for this and that, and they want a trailer, and this has to happen there, and yeah.
Well,
so the film, after that, when it quietens down, then I'll have a think about what next.
Okay, fair enough. I thought you might have a sort of unproduced screenplay sitting there waiting to be filmed, but that's no, not at the moment. But it's so interesting. This film should travel internationally so easily, because A, it doesn't have dialogue, and B, because of its storyline and the way it's filmed, which is so appealing, I think.
Yes, Berlin has set off a run of quite a lot of important festivals, and you know, that'll be part of what is in the future. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the film. It's a fine film, Survival of Kindness, and we've been speaking to the writer-director, Rolf de Heer, and the lead actress who's escaped from the cage, Mwajemi Hussein. Thank you so much, both of you, for talking with me on Movie Metropolis.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Good luck with the film and for future studies and future releases. All the best. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you.